back to another reading with Mr. White, with me, Mr. White. We are reading the Nowhere Emporium. We are on to chapter 14 today, but can you remember what happened in chapter 13? I'll give you a recap. So, Daniel and Mr. Silver got back from Paris, and Ellie, Mr. Silver's daughter, she wanted to talk to Mr. Silver about her birthday party. Mr. Silver didn't want to. He ran after Ellie and he left his drawer open, and inside that drawer was the Book of Wonders. Daniel could not help himself. He went in, got the Book of Wonders, took it out, and he wrote a wonder about his mum and his dad. He wanted to see his parents again because they'd sadly passed away. He went running through the Emporium to try and find this new room where his parents would be. But who should be waiting? None other than Mr. Silver. There were some horrible, strange noises coming from the inside, monsters and things, and Mr. Silver told Daniel that you can't bring people back from the dead. Daniel thought he was going to get sent back to Glasgow, but luckily Mr. Silver has given him one more chance, but he's not allowed to write in the Book of Wonders for a while. I think that's about all that happened. We're on to chapter 14. Get comfy, sit down, relax. Here we go. Chapter 14, Truce. Since his run-in with the mugger in Paris, Mr. Silver had not been the same. Aside from putting a stop to any lessons, which Daniel missed greatly, Silver treated him well enough. Still, there was no denying that something was not right. His limp was showing no signs of improvement, and his general health seemed to be worsening each day. He looked older somehow, tired and fragile, and at times he would simply sit staring into space while cups of tea grew cold and customers came and went. His production of new wonders had slowed to a halt. Daniel was worried about him and about the Emporium. Silver moved the shop around a lot over the next few weeks, visiting Berlin in the 1930s as Hitler was riding the crest of a dark wave, London during the coronation of Queen Victoria, and finally the streets of Barcelona just months after the end of the Spanish Civil War. In each of these places and times, Silver would scour the streets for magical shops, searching for his elusive treasure. But he would always return empty-handed and angry. What is that treasure he's looking for? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. One morning in Barcelona, Daniel set out to fetch coal for the fire. Upon his return to the shop, he began to tidy in preparation for twilight. He listened to the ticking of the clocks as he worked, humming tunes and tapping on the tables and books. "You should be on stage with a voice like that." Daniel, who had been polishing the eagle feet of Mr. Silver's desk, sprang up, catching the edge of the table with a thud. Ellie stood by the velvet curtain, arms folded. Daniel had not seen her since Paris. He knew that she didn't like him. And why should he like her? She seemed pig-headed, infuriating. But he found her quite fascinating. "Where have you been?" he said. Ellie shrugged. "Around." "I've been watching out for you," said Daniel. I've been wanting to say something." "Sorry." Ellie tilted her head a little. "Sorry?" "Aye," said Daniel. "I mean, I can understand if you hate me. Some wee boy from Glasgow coming in here and getting a job, working with your dad. But Ellie, I don't really have a clue what I'm doing. I'm sorry. I didn't know about you, about how you're stuck in here. I'm just..." "Sorry," said Ellie. Daniel nodded. "Daniel Holmes," she said, unfolding her arms. "However it might seem sometimes, I promise you that none of my storming off and throwing strops and getting angry is really about you. Well, not much of it anyway." "It's not?" "Nope. Look, Papa and me, we don't have a very smooth relationship. I love him to bits, really I do, but I get so angry with him sometimes. It always seems like I'm the least important thing on his list, even if I know that's not really true. And you were just another distraction." "Well, I didn't mean to be," said Daniel. "I didn't ask to come here." "I know," said Ellie. "I know. That's the point, I guess. Neither of us asked to come here, but here we are." "Is it really true that you can't leave?" said Daniel. Ellie ran her fingers over the point of her chin. "Yeah. And the customers really can't see you?" "Nope." "Is it like a magic disease or something?" Ellie laughed. No, it's complicated. Well, I can see you, said Daniel. You've got someone else to talk to. I mean, if you want. Ellie stared at him, the corners of her mouth forming the tiniest smile. You want to see something? Twilight came and went, and the Emporium opened its gates to the public. What are we doing here? Whispered Daniel. They'd followed a customer, a man in a flat cap, through the Emporium, keeping out of sight, watching him enter several wonders. Along the way, they passed Caleb and Anja, who tagged along, quite delighted to be part of whatever was going on. You'll see, said Ellie. They reached a quiet passageway where the customer in question entered another wonder. This'll do, said Ellie to Daniel. This'll do, said Ellie. To Daniel, she said, you stay. Then to Caleb and Anja, you know what to do. Daniel ducked behind a coat of armour just as the man reappeared. He watched Ellie walking towards her. She's going to bang into him, Daniel thought, but Ellie did not bump into him. She walked straight through him like she was made of mist. The customer shivered, rubbed his hands together and glanced around the dim corner. Is someone there? He said in a quiet voice. Nobody answered. Ellie ran a little way down the corridor to where another suit of armour was standing, and she began to push the armour along the ground towards the customer. When he heard the shrieking, scraping noise of the armour on the floor, the man jumped and turned just in time to see the suit of armour emerging from the shadows. Ah! He screamed, twisted round and ran straight into Anja, who stood tall, every inch of her covered in undulating, glistening snakes. The man shrieked again, ah! And spun again, just as Caleb lit his torch and blew hard on the flame, making the tongues lick and curl into the shape of a monster. In his panic, the man ran into a wall and then went sprinting away back towards the hall of stairways. Ellie was laughing so hard she was bent double. Did you see his face? Said Caleb, tears of laughter streaming down his cheeks. He mimicked the poor customer. That was one of the best in ages. The laughter was catching, and Daniel was soon slumped on the floor beside the other three. So, this is how you pass the time, he said. Isn't it a wee bit mean? Oh, I don't do it often, she said, but it usually works if I need cheering up. She wiped her eyes. Customers don't remember anything after they leave the shop, do they? So it's perfectly harmless to scare them half to death. Her brain seemed to switch gears. Hey, we're having a ball for my birthday soon. You'll be invited. Daniel, who had never been invited to a party in his life, opened his mouth to accept, but Ellie was talking again. Papa throws the best balls for my birthday. I think it's his way of making up for the fact he's so completely obsessed with the Emporium for the rest of the year. All of the staff will be there. She nodded to Caleb and Anja. Won't you? Of course, said Caleb. Have we ever missed a ball? He clapped his hands together. Oh, I love mixing with people from the real world. He stopped short, remembering that Ellie would be nothing but a ghost to many of her own birthday guests. Don't worry, she said. It's nice to have so many people there just for me. They can't see me, of course, but I enjoy watching them, listening to how they talk, hearing their stories from out there. Where's everyone gone today? Said Daniel. They'd been walking back through the Emporium as they talked. There was no sign of customers or staff. The place had fallen silent. It's too early for closing time. Something's up, said Ellie. They said goodbye to Caleb and Anja and rushed down staircase after staircase, seeing no one until they were on the ground floor through the red curtain to the shop front. The closed sign had been hung on the door. Mr. Silver, limping and wheezing, was busying himself at the strange instrument on the wall. He was twisting dials as if his life depended on it, an expression of panic on his handsome face. Ellie leaned close to Daniel and whispered, He's lost his marbles. It's finally happening. Daniel squinted at Mr. Silver, who was now tossing handfuls of coal haphazardly at the fire. We're leaving. Very perceptive of you. Why so sudden? What's happened? I've decided I don't like Barcelona. Daniel glanced at Ellie, who gave him her best. I told you so. Look, the fire roared. The flames turned red. I'm supposed to be your assistant, he said. If something's wrong, maybe I can help. Silver stopped. He turned and fixed Daniel with wild grey eyes. Nobody can help. Daniel didn't get the chance to ask another question. The fire exploded in a cloud of soot. By the time the dust had settled, Mr. Silver had disappeared through the curtain. What's going on there then? That's the end of chapter 14. Things are definitely not right with Mr. Silver, aren't they? What do you think's wrong with him? His health is definitely getting worse, isn't it? It's deteriorating, good word. And he's definitely looking for something, isn't it? It says that he's been going through different places and different points in history, trying to find magic shops, but he keeps coming back empty-handed. What is going on with Mr. Silver? We will find out next time when we read chapter 15, which is called Bazaar's Bazaar. Don't forget to subscribe, click the like button. I will see you next time for chapter 15. Bye everybody.